Hello and welcome to this Filbert Flies review of Joe Erlandsson's Aerosoft Brussels scenery for Microsoft Flight Simulator. In this video we're going to take a good look around the airport in different weather and lighting conditions. We're going to discuss some of the additional features included, most notably the new Aerosoft visual docking guidance system, and I'm going to finish up by giving you my overall opinion on it. Let's get started. Welcome to Brussels. We're parked up at stand 144 and, as always, we're going to start by having a look at the jetway connecting to the aircraft. But a bit of a different perspective to usual with this review because I want to show you what happens with this door when the jetway connects. As you can see, it swings open with a beautiful fluid animation. There's also a jetway driver, so an astounding level of detail that I've not seen before in a scenery as far as I recall. Back to business as usual now, and you'll notice that the jetway has done a lovely job of connecting to the aircraft. No gaps, and the jetway hood doesn't go through the aircraft's skin. The jetway models at the airport are very nice indeed. There's a good amount of detail on them, and they're nicely textured as well, with no blurriness and a good amount of weathering where you'd expect to see it. The glass is tinted, and you'll notice as we move inside that it retains that tint from the inside as well. Let's move on to having a look at some of the terminal buildings now, starting with this northern pier that we parked at. This is, in my opinion, the most impressive part of the airport, both in real life and in the sim. Architecturally, it's lovely, it's got a really nice interior, as you will see in a moment, but we'll first begin down at ground level. And you'll notice that there's a lot of detail down here. We've got this very nicely modelled canopy, we've got a lot of vehicles, and as we progress through this review, you'll notice just how much road traffic there is on these airside roads, which really does add a lot of life to the airport. But anyway, the terminal building, as I was saying, we have parallax effect in use on these windows at the ground here, which does look pretty convincing. It's not obviously quite as nice as a fully modelled terminal interior, but in terms of balancing visuals with performance, I think it was a really good idea to do this. Moving on up, and you'll notice that we've got some lovely modelling of these sort of slatted panels in between the glass windows. The windows themselves have a lovely tint, and they reflect the light very realistically indeed. Up at roof level, we've got these sunshades, again beautifully modelled and textured, lovely curves here, no jagged edges or anything, and the same is true of the roof of this section here as well. Let's move inside now, and right from the off you will see that this airport is absolutely teeming with life. We've got passengers walking around, even the passengers sat in the gate areas are moving ever so slightly, breathing, fidgeting, that sort of thing, and it does make a huge difference to the level of immersion. We even have features like animated walkways, which you can see moving along here, and passengers walking along those as well. We've got cars modelled all the way along the length of the concourse, which presumably are there to be won. We have a lot of detail around the gate areas with signage, advertising, that sort of thing. I'm also really impressed with the level of detail on the internal structures. So we've got these lovely air conditioning vents. Who calls an air conditioning vent lovely? I don't know. You know what I mean though. Yeah, they look really good. No jagged edges, nice and round. And the metal structures, which are the supports for the building, look lovely too. There are, however, one or two areas that could do with a little bit more work though, in my opinion. The first is this escalator well here. You can see that there's no barrier around it and it just feels incomplete and a little bit weird. The second is the windows, which are non-existent from the inside. As we move back out, you will notice that there's no tint here, no glass, no reflection, no kind of barrier at all from the inside to the outside. And that does spoil your immersion if, like me, you enjoy starting your flight from inside the terminal, having a look out at your aircraft. This is the Apron 2 pier, just south of where we started. And before we take a good look at that, I do just want to take a moment to point out the fantastic traffic on the ground here. You'll see a huge variety of very nicely modelled prototypical vehicles driving up and down all of the roads on the airside here. And you'll just notice on this jetway here, there was a member of staff walking up the stairs. That is something I haven't seen before. So yes, vehicles absolutely fantastic, and also the people are absolutely fantastic. You'll notice these little scenes around and about the place where we have a vehicle parked up and a couple of airport staff stood outside having a chat about something or other. This level of attention to detail really makes a big difference in my opinion. It does feel like a bustling, busy airport. Right, back to the buildings, and once again, the quality of the modelling and texturing on this pier is absolutely fantastic. Again, we've got some fantastic parallax effect on the ground floor here, some really high quality textures which are not blurry even when you get super close. Just take a look at how sharp this brickwork is and the concrete pillar there. And as we move on up, you'll notice again a really nice amount of weathering, and there's no obvious repetition. It looks very lifelike. A good amount of detail on the roof as well, with no blurry textures at all. The interior of the pier looks absolutely fantastic from the outside, as does the glass, which is very realistically tinted and nicely reflective. And once again, the level of detail in here is very impressive. Again, we have moving people, we have the same animated travelators, and while there isn't quite as much detail as there was in the northerly pier, it is everything I need really from an interior. And also, unlike the northerly pier, the glass here does retain its tint from the inside. So it looks as good looking from the inside to the outside as it does looking from the outside to the inside, which is really nice to see. As we move south from Apron 2 towards Apron 3, we have some of the best use of parallax I've ever seen in Microsoft Flight Simulator. This building here looks absolutely incredible. We've got two different tints, as you can see, a slightly misty tint down below and a darker but clearer tint up above, and the amount of detail that you can see through these windows is astounding. Now, I don't begrudge the lack of a modelled interior here. A lot of airport developers would have just put some opaque window textures there, but not Joe. He has done a fantastic job and has included everything you would need during normal airport operations. This building here does feature some interior modelling, not as much as what we've seen on the piers, but I'm really impressed by the effort he's gone to with the ceiling, particularly these spotlights, which look pretty good from inside and absolutely fantastic from outside. Some more lovely parallax goodness on this connecting building, which connects this rotunda type thing with the main terminal. And the rotunda itself also features some really nice parallax effect on all three levels, as you can see. So that's the main terminal buildings dealt with. Let's move on to having a look at some of the peripheral buildings and structures around the airport, starting here with this access point / security checkpoint. There are a few of these dotted around the airport, and the level of detail here is really astounding. It's like nothing I've ever seen in any other airport add-on, really. The quality of the fencing is insanely good, and I've seen a fence or two in my time, so I know about these things. And we also have incredibly detailed traffic lights, barriers, even details like this little entry phone / intercom system. Really impressive. At the southwestern end of the main apron, we have the TUI and Brussels Airlines hangars, and these are both superbly modelled and textured. In fact, I'm going to give you a close-up look at this corrugated, rounded section here, because the amount of effort that must have gone into just this tiny piece of the airport is astounding. And look how good the 3D sign is as well. You will also have just noticed out the corner of the shot that the hangar doors are animated. We're going to have a closer look at those in a later section of the review where we look at the special features, because they are also fitted with proximity sensors. For now though, we'll pop through them and have a look inside. And you can see in here we have a TUI Boeing 737, which at various points during the day gets pushed back out of the hangar. We also have animated people who open the doors and walk out at random intervals. It's probably not random, but it feels random. Just amazing. Absolutely brilliant stuff. This is the cargo apron, and just like the rest of the airport, it's clearly been shown a lot of love and a lot of time has been spent on it. We've got a good amount of high quality ground clutter, which I always think is more important on cargo aprons than anywhere else, purely because otherwise they can feel pretty dead and lifeless. The cargo terminal has been beautifully modelled, right down to the details like this 3D Swissport sign. This is the General Aviation apron and associated hangar buildings. When I arrived here, I thought, ooh, finally something I can have a little bit of a moan about, because these buildings look very plain and grey and drab. But then I had a look at Google Maps satellite view, and indeed in real life they are very plain and grey and drab. So they have been rendered absolutely perfectly, and there's nothing to complain about here at all. I do have one little suggestion for an improvement down here at the what I assume is an FBO type building. We don't have any parallax effect on these windows, and it would be nice arriving here in a CJ4 or perhaps even a Cessna to have a little bit more detail to look at on the airside. However, as we round the corner, the front of the building is very impressive. Again, this fantastic realistic parallax effect that we saw earlier, some really good signage, and and even some shrubbery. Very nice. The control tower off to the east of the airport has also been very nicely modelled. We have some transparent glass, but there isn't an interior yet, although I am led to believe that this will be added in due course. But what about the ground textures, I hear you cry? Panic not, we're coming to that right now. The ground textures at Brussels are very good indeed. The materials used and their colours match the real-world airport very closely, as far as I can tell from the satellite imagery. In terms of sharpness, they are pretty good. There is a little bit of blurriness in the cracks between the paving slabs, but that's very hard to avoid in Microsoft Flight Simulator. You're never going to get textures in here which are as crisp as what you would have in, say, P3D. Within the confines of the sim, I think that they've done a very good job indeed. The ground markings are fantastic as well, nice and crisp, the right shades of yellow and red and white, nothing too bright and plain and cartoony, very, very immersive stuff. The taxiways look fantastic. They've done a great job here of blending in their own custom textures with the satellite imagery, hence we get a bit of variation in tone and shade around the edges, which looks very realistic, but without any obvious blurriness as you're taxiing along. There's also no jagged edges around the corners, which is always nice to see. The grassy areas look fantastic, as do the 3D taxiway signs. Unsurprisingly, the runways also look very nice indeed. There is a little bit of bleed through from the satellite imagery here and there, but nothing too awful. The markings are spot on in terms of accuracy. There's a good bit of rubber around the touchdown zone, and the textures are nice and crisp. A huge amount of effort has been put into the landside areas of the airport as well. This is the cargo terminal entrance, and you'll notice that even here we have custom ground textures and a huge amount of detail down at ground level here in terms of barriers and buses and lots of other things as well. We also have a fully modelled elevated section up here outside the passenger terminal entrance. Now, for some reason, there is some blurry satellite imagery included here, which does let it down a tiny bit, but when it's next to a picnic area that's been modelled as beautifully as this, and when you turn the corner and see how nicely the ground has been textured around here, you can't really complain too much. Even these buildings opposite the terminal entrance have been modelled to an insane level of detail. You'll notice the multi-storey car park has cars on its top tier and detailed stairways and other features. It even has transparent glass on the front of it. Just next door, we have the Sheraton Hotel, which has been modelled really, really beautifully with some lovely sharp weathered textures and a very detailed entrance, which even has people walking out of it. Moving away from the airport, you'll notice that the details continue, with some really impressive terraforming, allowing for these elevated road sections and these underpasses. How's this for night lighting? A lot of developers are doing really great work with night lighting in Microsoft Flight Simulator these days, and a lot of add-on airports look really realistic by night. But I honestly can't remember reviewing an airport where I have been as impressed by the night lighting as I am here at Brussels. Everything looks exactly as it should. The floodlights look as they should, and the glow that they cast on the ground looks absolutely right as well. The little red lights on the end of the jetways look lovely. These little lights underneath the terminal building look fantastic. And the light coming from within the terminal looks amazing as well. Absolutely stunning work. I didn't show you this building between aprons 1 and 2 by day because there's just too much to see here, so I left it out. But look how stunning it looks by night. And a quick look at the apron 2 pier gives us the chance to appreciate just how nicely the parallax effect blends in with the transparent glass and terminal interior beneath it. The runway and taxiway lighting all looks very good, and it's really nice to see that custom alternating yellow and green lights have been used to denote the high-speed runway exits. Here's Brussels in the snow, and as you can see, the aprons have a good covering of snow on them. The taxiways are also partially covered. There are odd little gaps, which as we know are due to texture colours, and some fairly sharp transitions between the snow-covered areas and the areas that are snowless. The main thing for me, though, is that the runways are clear of snow, which is very nice to see because there's nothing worse than arriving at an airport and not being able to make out the runway because it's just white like everything around it. Also, inside the terminal, there is no snow at all. It's very common with add-on sceneries to pop inside and see a thick blanket of snow all over the floor and even on people's heads. So quite how Joe has got around this, I don't know, but I'm very pleased he has. Time now to have a look at some of the special features included with this product, starting with the VDGS or Visual Docking Guidance System. This is by far the most full-featured VDGS system we've seen to date, and both T1 and T2 safe docks are modelled. The system's complexity does mean, however, that you have to set it up through its own interface before arriving at your gate. To do this, we first press Shift-V to bring up this window. Then we find the gate we want to arrive at by selecting the airport, the apron, the part of the apron, and then the gate itself. We're going to choose gate 163. That done, the gate is active and we can pull onto stand. So we'll just get around this turn and then I'll zoom in to show you clearly what the VDGS is telling us. So initially you see that it's correctly identified as an A320, and as we get closer it's going to give us distance information to our stop point and also tell us if we need to go left or right. So we need to go left a little bit here, and we have 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we'll stop there. And it's quite sensitive, so if you go too far, as I did there, it'll tell you you've gone too far. Let me just cheat and slew back a smidge so you can see what it looks like when you stop in the right place. And there we have it, stop. So we will apply the parking brake, and it's telling us that we are okay. Once you're safely parked up on stand and the OK disappears, it will be replaced by this display, showing the current Zulu time and the current outside air temperature. But there's more you can do with this system, as I will show you. So if you press Shift-V again, you'll see that our gate is still selected, and we have a flight plan button up here. If we click on this, we can put in any destination airport IATA code, so let's say LHR for now. And we can choose our target off blocks time, let's say 1500. And we'll press confirm. Now, if you are going to another Aerosoft airport equipped with this system and you put that IATA code in, it will allow you to choose your gate at the other end and have it all seamlessly integrated, so you won't have to open the menu on arrival. What it's showing us here, though, you can see is our arrival airport, Heathrow, still showing the Zulu time, and it will flick to another screen shortly, which shows our target off blocks time and how long away that is in minutes, so 13 minutes. So this is a really, really nice system. I, like many other people, would love all of these developers to get together and do one system so that we have universal safe docks at all the airports that are built. But if I had to pick one system of all the ones that have been released so far, in spite of having to use the slightly clunky menus, it would be this one because of its features. I just love this. We've never had anything this detailed in a sim before. The second special feature I want to show you is one of the 2 animated apron gates. Now this is at the end of taxiway November 4, and you'll see that the gate is currently closed, but as we approach it, it will automatically slide open, which is really neat. And finally, I want to show you this TUI hangar, which has another proximity sensor which opens the hangar doors as you approach. This is one of 2 hangars with this feature at the airport. Just magnificent, isn't it? Just magnificent. So what do I think of Aerosoft Brussels? Well, I'm glad to say it was well worth the wait. It's a truly fantastic airport. What have I found to moan about? A missing barrier around an escalator well inside the terminal, glass that disappears from the inside, some solitary opaque window textures on the GA terminal, and a tiny bit of blurry ground texture on the Landside area. That's literally it, and these are minor things. Overall, this is an absolute stunner, just like all of Joe's previous work. One thing that it's hard to describe in words, but which I hope you've picked up from the video clips throughout this review, is just how atmospheric the place is. I love the fact that the airport's teeming with life, from the realistic animated ground vehicles, to the people moving around inside the terminal, to the clutter around the cargo apron. I love the incredible night lighting, and the little details like the security posts and the picnic area out the front of the terminal. The VDGS system is great, even if you do have to bring up a menu to use it, and the little proximity-sensitive animations are the icing on the cake. Of course, it almost goes without saying that the modelling and texturing are top-notch too. If you haven't already bought this airport, I'd strongly suggest you do so immediately. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you again soon here on Filbertflies on YouTube, and also over on Twitch at twitch.com/filbertflies. Bye bye.